Thom Hartmann here on the best of the rest of science and green news. You need to know this. California is already dealing with the worst drought in that state's history. So the last thing residents needed was to learn that some of their dwindling water supply has been contaminated. Back in June, California regulators shut down 11 fracking injection wells after finding that wastewater may have contaminated aquifers. The Environmental Protection Agency ordered the state to send a full report, which the California State Water Resources Board turned in earlier this month. That board confirmed that at least 9 of the fracking sites in question were dumping waste into aquifers used for drinking water and for farm irrigation. The Center for Biological Diversity obtained a copy of the letter that the board sent to the EPA, which revealed some alarming information. That letter said about 3 billion gallons of fracking wastewater was pumped into injection wells and seeped into aquifers near the center of that state. Water samples taken from these areas have extremely high levels of carcinogens and toxins like thallium and arsenic. Timothy Krantz of the University of Redlands said the fact that high concentrations are showing up in multiple water wells close to wastewater injection sites raises major concerns about the health and safety of nearby residents. Considering that many of California's reservoirs are already sitting at about half of their historic average, that state can't afford to lose access to any of their drinking water. But thanks to the fossil fuel industry, residents may have to risk consuming dangerous chemicals or risk going thirsty. This is exactly why the fossil fuel industry can't be trusted. It's time for a complete moratorium on natural gas drilling and fracking, and time to end our addiction to fossil fuels. We've all heard that dogs age 7 times faster than humans, but it turns out that ratio is just a myth. According to animal experts, dogs age at different rates depending on breed and size, and depending on what state of life they're in. Most dogs age very quickly, early in life, reaching full maturity by the age of 2, but that aging slows down later in life. And while smaller dog breeds tend to reach maturity even faster, larger dogs actually have shorter lifespans. Although veterinarians have known all along that this calculation wasn't true, the 7-to-1, the myth seemed to be believed by many people. When asked why the 7-to-1 ratio persists, William Fortney, a veterinarian at Kansas State University, told the Wall Street Journal, "It's a way to educate the public on how fast a dog ages compared to a human, predominantly from a health standpoint. It was a way to encourage owners to bring in their pets for a checkup at least once a year. We certainly wouldn't go 7 years without getting a health checkup, and our pets certainly shouldn't wait that long either." The Nuclear Regulatory Commission is considering whether to extend Diablo Canyon's operating license for another 20 years, but environmentalists say that's a really bad idea. Pacific Gas and Electric, a.k.a. PG&E, applied for the license extension back in 2009. However, the permit process was suspended after the massive disaster at Fukushima. Even before the tsunami in Japan, activists were calling on regulators to shut down that plant until operators could prove that it could withstand a major earthquake. Seismic data released last month shows that the 1960s-era plant is surrounded by fault lines capable of producing earthquakes that the plant could never withstand. The environmental group Friends of the Earth has filed a petition for a public hearing on the new data before Diablo Canyon's license is renewed. We shouldn't have to wait for a massive disaster in the United States before we wake up to the danger of nuclear power, and the public should have a say in which plants are allowed to stay in operation. Last week, a lab official pleaded guilty to conspiracy to violate the Clean Water Act. John W. Shelton admitted to diluting water samples and substituting clean water to help coal mining companies get away with polluting West Virginia waterways. The charges against Shelton state that the conspiracy helped coal companies avoid fines and other costs associated with bringing their operations into compliance with the Clean Water Act. Thing is, one person can't commit a conspiracy alone. Based on his admission, we know that Shelton helped coal companies, but as of now, we don't know who at those companies asked him to do so. Under current law, many companies are allowed to self-report their supposed compliance with air and water quality samples. The biggest questions we should have after learning of this story is who directed John Shelton to self-report a lie and who then will be punished. It does no good to charge the low man on the totem pole if you keep the lying, cheating, polluting people in charge of self-regulation. We should be demanding some answers in this case and demanding that regulators are the ones doing the regulation. And finally, it looks like humans aren't the only ones who can be introverts or extroverts. According to a new study published in the journal Behavioral Ecology and Sociobiology, even sharks have personalities. Dr. David Jacoby of the Institute of Zoology in London conducted a study on 10 groups of cat sharks, which were monitored in different levels of social structure. Dr. Jacoby and his colleagues found that some sharks are gregarious and have strong social connections, while others are more solitary and prefer to remain inconspicuous. Those personalities remained constant even when researchers changed the shark's environment. Once again, science has proven that a quality we think of as unique to humans is actually present among wild animals. These studies should remind us that we are part of an interconnected, amazing web of life, and why it is so important to respect and care for all species. And if you happen to come across a shark while swimming, I suppose it doesn't hurt to hope that it's one with a friendly personality. And that's the way it is for the week of October 20th, 2014. I'm Thom Hartmann on Science and Green News.